Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today I'm excited because we're going to be diving into something that's a little different. So one of the things I love about craft distillers is that sort of by necessity, they have to make things that are maybe not strange is probably not the word for it. Unique, different, things that break the mold, things that are experimental, creative, because they have to fight this sort of uphill battle against some of these large legacy distillers, these everyday shelfers that people will pick up for $30, $40. And then the craft distillers, because they are small, a lot of times because of the amount of investments they have to mark up their product a little bit higher in order to actually make a return on the investment and the time that was put into the product. So because of that, they can't have a 4-year bourbon that's $20 more expensive than Wild Turkey 101. You know what I mean? So they have to get creative. And some of these distilleries do some really interesting things. So today I'm going to be trying from Middle West Spirits. They are in Columbus, Ohio. I'm going to be trying their dark pumpernickel cask strength rye. Let me pour this and I'll tell you a little bit about it. All right, a little bit about this bottle. So this is coming out of Middle West Spirits, like I said, Columbus, Ohio. So they're in the Ohio Valley. And for me, I grew up in central Indiana, but my mom's family was from Madison, Indiana, which is down in the Ohio Valley, right on the river. It's where they have like the regatta boat races and stuff like that on the 4th of July, a real historic town. And so we would go down there every month. We'd go down there, and there's great hiking trails. The Ohio Valley really is a beautiful place in the Midwest. You think of Indiana, you think of Ohio, you think flat, you think farmland, not exciting. But down there in the Ohio Valley, there's lush vegetation. There's things like waterfalls and state parks. It's really a beautiful area. So from Columbus, the Ohio River sort of goes southwest and then down into the southern border of Indiana. So a little bit of a nice personal connection there. But Middle West Spirits, let me read you the write-up on this bottle. And I'll show you a nice picture of it so you can see what the bottling looks like. You can see if maybe you've ever seen any of their stuff out there in the wild. But this is what it says. It says, it's America's first dark pumpernickel rye whiskey. The signature spirit is distilled from dark pumpernickel rye, non-GMO, open-pollinated yellow corn, soft red winter wheat, and 2-row barley to create a unique 4-grain rye. So we know that it's at least 4 years old, non-age stated. It is at cask strength, and it is at least 51% dark pumpernickel rye grain in the mash, but technically a 4-grain. So here's the thing. I've never had this before. I do not know what to expect, if I'm going to like it, if I'm going to hate it, but I will be honest. But my concern with stuff like this is always that, hopefully it's going to be unique and interesting enough to justify the purchase. But sometimes you get stuff where it's like, no one's ever done this before. And then you try it and you're like, oh, that's why no one's ever done it before, because it's not good. So sometimes people break the mold, and it's a really cool development in the whiskey industry, and you get some really cool flavor profiles because of it. Other times, people break the mold, and you're like, that is freaking disgusting. Please stick to what works. So we will find out which of those categories this falls into. This particular bottle comes in at 124.2 proof, so pretty hot. Let's nose it. Well, that's definitely a peculiar nose. I think of lemon poppy seed cake on the nose. And I get like a cream soda note. Surprisingly, not a lot of like ethanol. I kind of expected that going into it, thinking 124.2 proof, rye, young. I expected a lot of ethanol in the nose, but I'm really not getting a lot. It's a very light and sweet nose. A little citrusy, and a little bit of that vanilla cream soda in there too. I kind of like that nose. All right, well, let's get in on this and give it a try, shall we? Cheers. First sip of the day, admittedly. It's pretty hot. Give myself a minute to sort of acclimate to it. Definitely that citrus note does persist through the nose and into the palate, and a lot of pepperiness as well. And there's a note of like, I want to say like dry barn grains, like loose grains laying around in a barn somewhere. You know what I mean? Tastes really autumny, like harvest season, where you walk into a barn and the machines have been operating and there's remnants of, maybe just dry corn kernels laying around and loose hay, stuff like that. That's definitely a note I get on the palate of this, which is interesting, especially in the finish. Like, this is a technique one of the whiskey writers I like to read from. I've noted this before. One of the things that he likes to do is after you've let the finish sit for a second. Kind of keep your mouth open internally. Exhale, but exhale through your throat so that the air sort of circulates through your olfactories and then out your nose. And as it's circulating through there, it sort of opens up some different aromatic notes out of the whiskey, out of the finish. And that's really where I get that sort of loose barn grain note. Spicy, citrus, harvest season, a little bit of that sweet vanilla cream. Those are the predominant notes I get off of this. All in all, I think this is a really interesting sip, pretty compelling. It reminds me a bit of the Rock Filter Red Rider Rye, although I think that one leans further into that harvest season side of the sip and does it really well. I think I would prefer that one to this, but this is still pretty good. I will note though that this bottle is, I think MSRP is $80 on the money. So you would have to be willing to drop $80 to try something like this out. Now I do think they have a lower proof version of this one as well, which I think is like $50. So if you wanted to at least just get into that profile and see if you liked it before you dove into the cask strength version of it, you could do that. But I have not had that one, so I'm not sure if you would lose any of those tasting notes in the process of proofing it down. I'm really not too sure. But I will certainly say I do appreciate how innovative this is. If it just tasted like a standard rye at cask strength, there's no shot I would buy it. I really wouldn't. Not for $80, not when there's other shelf or cask strength ryes out there. I mean, the old Overholt 10-year cask strength is $100, $95, $100, $15 to $20 more. You could get Legacy Distiller cask strength 10 years old as opposed to 4 minimum here. Guaranteed 10 years old. That's a banger bottle. You know what I mean? So there's a ton of competition for a cask strength rye out there from legacy distillers that have amazing bottles on the shelf already. So if this just tasted like a regular cask strength rye for $80, no shot I would buy it. But because it is interesting, I would say it's a maybe buy. If you were feeling adventurous and you had $80 to blow, or $50 on the lower proof offering, maybe you would give it a shot. And so with all of these things in mind, if I'm going to give this a score per my scale, that's the challenging part. I think I'm going to land at a 6.9. Nice. Because it's really good. It's really good. And I would say comfortably at the top end of that maybe buy. I would feel more compelled to say, yeah, I don't think you could go wrong giving this a shot if you had the money to blow on it. But yeah, so I think it is unique enough to warrant being a potential purchase for you. The only hurdle to get over there is the price point, $80, $50 if it's the lower proof point. And then there's always the risk with things that are different, that are experimental, that you just might not vibe with those tasting notes. And that's totally fine. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So there is sort of this added layer of risk whenever you try something that's offbeat and different. You just might not like it, but maybe you will. I happen to actually like this. So there you have it. That's the review. Thank you so much, Patreon supporters, for the samples you guys send in so I get to try stuff like this. I appreciate it. If you are looking for a good whiskey community to get involved in, I encourage you guys, check the link in the description to our Discord. Very active, very chatty. People are always hanging out in there. We've got well over 100 people now in the Discord. And then if you're a Patreon supporter, then we have the Patreon Lounge. The Patreon, you can get into the Patreon for just $1 a month. We do events like bottle shares and stuff like that, which is super fun. Live streams. We've had Patreon members who pick out my blind for my live streams, which is super fun too. And the Patreon lounge in the Discord is always popping up. So feel free to check our community out. We'd love to have you. Cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.